greetings and salutations, ladies and gentlemen. Hashtag live if you're watching live. Hashtag replay if you're on replay. So, I'm going to ask you a question. Are you the type of person that in current state or in a previous segment of your life you have chronically dieted? So we're going to define this by you've just dieted by reducing, calories to an extreme amount. You've gone from the orange diet to the grapefruit diet to the cucumber diet to the celery diet to the Atkins diet to the intermittent fasted diet, all the diets, right? You've done them. You've bounced from one thing to one thing to one thing, right? Just hoping that something's going to catch on and something's going to hit and it's going to actually give you the results that you're looking for. And it hasn't. So hashtag me in the comment section if you've ever experienced anything like that. So I'm going to explain to you the complicated situation that goes on inside of all of us physiologically as it relates to our metabolism, as it relates to dieting, as it relates to fat loss, etc., etc. Going to shrink it all down in a very digestible video so that we can all understand it. So this is all about chronic dieting. Okay, and I see this a lot when I am coaching clients is I really want to know, okay, what have you done in the past? Have you been on these extreme diets? Have you reduced your calories to a certain amount? Have you tracked your calories? Have you done all these things, right? I want to know what's going on because that's information that's going to really be able to help me as I really kind of diagnose and see exactly what it is that we need to prescribe, as if I'm a doctor, to get the results that we want to get. And it's going to be different for every person. There's so many different things we have to consider. That's why personalization is so much more valuable than just going to a website and printing off some kind of nutrition form and then doing it. Because at the end of the day, it may not be for you. So there's a fat loss fallacy. Yes, calories matter, okay? The amount of calories that we eat, the amount of calories that we burn, all that matters. There's a hierarchy as far as, what can we control? Well, we obviously can control the amount of food that we put in our body, and to some level, we can control how much energy that we exert. But it isn't as easy as us saying, well, you ate 1,200 calories today, so if you work out and you burn 1,300 calories, you're negative 100 calories. If you do that over the course of a week, you're going to lose 1 pound of fat, or whatever the case may be, right? It's so much more difficult than that. And yes, that does play a part, but as I've talked so many different times, again, food labels can be off as 25%. These fitness trackers aren't really all that accurate. So again, we're kind of like, okay, well, what is it that we do? So calories in versus calories out. Sometimes the body calls for it. Sometimes it doesn't. Really depends. But anytime you start reducing your calories, particularly to an extreme amount from where you may have been previous, you're going to have a little bit of an issue as it relates to how many calories that you are actually burning. Because evolutionary-wise, our body wants to stay where we are. It wants to level out a level of homeostasis. It wants to be in the position that it is right now because that's what's going to be able to survive. Because again, this whole life is about survival, right? So we haven't really caught up from the evolution of us being around lions, tigers, and bears and our food being very sparse to where, the grocery store is 5 seconds down the road. We can call up Amazon. We can call up, any restaurant. And we can have food with us within 10 minutes, okay? We haven't caught up to that fact just yet. So when you start to reduce calories, okay, your TDEE becomes very adaptive. So what that means is the total daily energy expenditure. So that means the amount of calories that you burn every day. When you start to reduce, your body is then going to conserve. Okay, well, what also happens? Well, you start decreasing your non-exercise activities. So when you're walking, okay, when you're out doing gardening, when you're out, walking from your car all the way to work, you're going to reduce the amount of calories that you're burning through these activities because you've reduced your calories. Because again, your body wants to conserve. So you can see how this, if you're consistently eating the same amount of low calories, your body is basically saying no. Okay, it's like, no, this is just too much. Now there's going to be periods, and we'll get to that in a second, where you may be able to reduce the amount of calories that you're eating to create the effect that you're wanting, but you can't do that forever. That's what this is all about. This is chronic dieting. Over and over and over and over, your body's not going to allow it. Your thermic effect of food, basically the amount of calories that you can burn through digestion, will then decrease. Your resting metabolic rate, so the amount of calories that you're burning at rest, will then start to decrease. All because this is about survival. Okay? So yeah, in the first, if you were eating 3,000 calories and you dropped it down to 2,500, not that big of a difference. But if you went from 3,000 calories to 1,200 calories overnight, boom, body's like, whoa, what have you done to us? This is all the more reason why stair-stepping down, okay, and then having periods of breaks where you're not dieting. You're actually focused on increasing your intake 10 to 20%. Again, to give your body a little bit of time to adapt to its surroundings, so that you can start burning calories a little bit more, and then you can go back into a calorie deficit if that's what it calls for. Now, here's another place where this is going to impact. It's going to impact hormonally. So, cortisol. Now, cortisol gets a bad name, but we really do need cortisol, particularly in the morning, because that's what's going to keep us alert. So, if we're having problems, waking up and staying alert, could be somewhat of a cortisol problem, hormonal issue, whatever. We won't get into that in this video, but what we don't want is cortisol levels high at night, because what that'll end up doing is impacting our sleep. We won't get to deep sleep. We may not get to sleep at all, and then obviously that's going to, cause havoc on our rest and recovery. Ghrelin and leptin, which ghrelin will go up, which thus will increase our appetite. So therefore, we're going to be craving more food, okay? Leptin, which is going to be controlling our appetite, is then going to drive down. So again, we've got this kind of hormonal shift of one is going up, that's supposed to be controlling something, and the other one is going down, which is supposed to help balance it out. So again, through this whole chronic dieting, you start to get this hormonal shift, which isn't necessarily great. And the reason why when people eat the same amount, or they're just constantly bouncing from diet to diet to diet, you get to a place where it's like, I'm not losing it anymore. I'm still eating the same amount of calories as I was 6 months ago, but I'm not losing anymore. Well, it's because, again, your body's basically shifting back to a survival mechanism to say, hey, listen, we got to keep what we got on us, because we don't know when we're going to get to eat again. And, we've got to make sure that we've got enough energy stored so that we can run or sprint if a lion is going to chase us, which obviously is not going to happen in this day and age. But again, this is where this all comes from physiologically. Downregulate T3, which is part of the whole thyroid mechanism to keep our metabolism where it is, so that we can digest food and we can, keep our metabolism at a certain level. So chronic dieting is going to lead to chronic recovery. Basically, your body's not going to be able to recover as it would if it was getting the proper amount of nutrition, which is going to lead into chronic stress on the body, inflammation, CRP levels are going to be out the roof. So again, this is not a perfect environment for losing weight. And you can't lose weight all the time. You're going to get to a certain point where it's going to be, okay, here we are, we've reached this plateau. The answer is not to eat less always. It could be, depending upon the circumstances, but when you get to this place, the answer more than likely is we need a break. The body needs a break. We need to go back, maybe increase the calories amount from 10 to 20%. Again, if you're counting calories, this applies to you. If not, again, this is why having a coach is so important, to be able to really be able to see what your situation is, so that we can actually give you the proper advice to get you to the results that you want. So, as you can see, this can get very, very confusing, but at the end of the day, what I'm trying to tell you is you can't consistently diet all the time, because if you do, you're going to blow your whole system out of whack. and you're going to get to a point where your body's just not losing fat, and you possibly could be into a situation where you want to overeat, you're adding on more weight, and you're having the reverse effect of what you're actually wanting. So, hashtag value in the comment section if you found value in this video. Please ask any questions in the bottom if you have any questions on what I just mentioned here. Hope everybody has a happy and a healthy day. Woo!